I got a shocking amount of hate for saying that 2 flowers at the end of a Minecraft promo is not a sign that the Moo Bloom is definitely coming to the game, and this is something that even Mojang themselves have had to respond to by updating their Copper Golem post with this paragraph that wasn't there before to say that the reinvention of the Copper Golem might have you wondering whether we would bring back other mobs from previous mob votes, and while we don't have any plans at this moment, there's always a possibility we'll revisit older ideas if they align with our vision the game drops. This is definite doom and gloom for the idea of seeing the Moo Bloom anytime soon, but there is a silver lining that maybe you just missed, and I want to go into that alongside all of the other Minecraft news that you didn't catch in today's Q&A Saturday, the weekly series where I respond to your comments, such as this one from Chipperland4471. I wish they'd added the Moo Bloom to the spring drop, it would have been the perfect time. This is the useful reminder that although the Moo Bloom might seem like a good fit for the Copper Golem drop because it's also a mob vote loser, the actual perfect time to add it would have been spring, and so that is a sign they're not jumping over themselves to add this to the game. If they wanted to add the Moo Bloom, they had the perfect drop, they had the perfect time, and they chose not to do it, which says that they don't necessarily think it can have a perfect gameplay fit, and this is the silver lining I actually want to mention. Even though it's bad news for the Moo Bloom, if we reread this paragraph, you can see that they say there's always a possibility that we'll revisit older ideas if they align with our vision for game drops and the ever-evolving world of Minecraft. In other words, saying that even if they really don't want to add a Moo Bloom right now, there's always the chance that they'll come up with that idea later, and maybe they have the perfect idea of how to add the Rascal to the game, or indeed the Savannah biome could do with an update. I've heard something about that from a YouTuber, or indeed just adding desert biomes with the brand new palm trees and meerkats. All of these ideas could fit the perfect update in the future, because as Wild Coyote says, constant tiny updates is the best way to keep Minecraft alive, and that is what the drop system has done. We get updates that are about a quarter the size, about 4 times as often, but the key and most exciting bit is it means they can keep having different focuses, and so while the spring drop went very heavy into flowers, and the summer drop went very heavy into visuals and the happy gas, now the autumn drop seems to be exclusively focusing around copper, and so the winter drop this year could be something entirely else, or 1.22, but the point is they can pick an entirely different theme each time, which means we get to really have great little focused updates. And speaking of the great focused update to do with copper, there was a very weird situation with it because they dropped the first release, as you might recall, on the 1st of July, and then there was a week without previews, and then the next week, where the preview would have already been a week late, they released it on a Wednesday instead, and that 8-day late preview contained precisely 0 copper related features. You can scan this changelog if you really want to, but the top comment on my video where I covered this was from Bed Scarlet saying that new ladder climbing effect seems weird to me, I can see how it helps with ice strain. If you haven't seen that ladder change yet, I did feature it in my video from the airport, but just in case you want to see it in my Let's Play world, I do have a preview copy I'm using to test the Copper Golem. Not as good as you'd expect for big chest rooms, by the way, but I also can show you this ladder change because it's really strange. So here's how ladder climbing works right now. This is in the preview, but as long as you look up, it still works the same as right now, where you just kind of smoothly go up. However, if you're looking at the ladder, this happens instead, where instead of climbing up kind of smoothly and consistently, you climb up 1 block at a time. Right now, this is only while you're looking directly at the ladder, and I find it to be kind of fine when looking diagonally, but when you look directly at it, this actively hurts. In fact, this isn't just me that thinks it actively hurts. You can see that there is a comment right here from Monochrome OS with 19 people agreeing that this is meant to improve accessibility, but it makes them feel sick. I totally agree with this. This is not... It makes me feel like something is wrong and that I'm maybe having an issue with my eyes. This is something that I could see improving and maybe just being turned on as an accessibility setting, but certainly I don't think it should be the default. With regards to sugarcane changes, this is one that I think is very fun and this is the logical place to show. If you are in the middle of a block, you now can see the sugarcane kind of blurs so you can see past it. I really like that personally. I think this is a really great change and clearly someone's been sugar farming a lot. By the way, the same thing that happens with ladders also happens with vines. Look at this. Oh, strange. The other change they made in this preview was also very accessibility related, because now when you drop items on the ground, instead of going all the way to the ground, they hover slightly above it. The actual position hasn't changed, it's just a visual one, but it means that now you can see items, if they're just a little bit above you, slightly easier, which is good, I guess. But yeah, in general, this preview had no changes to do with copper, and what is the reason for that? I'm glad you asked. The simple answer is that many Mojang employees are currently taking their annual leave, but the complex answer as to why they are all taking their annual leave to the point where the company slows down so much is really well explained by this Oxykun comment, who says, for those who do not know, by Swedish law, workers in Sweden are entitled to at least 25 days of vacation per year, with the right to take 4 consecutive weeks of vacation during the summer months. And this is something we can confirm. I actually went onto Swedish employment law, and as you can see, yeah, you're allowed to take 4 consecutive weeks of leave, at least if you want, during the summer as part of those 25 days. If it's between June and August, these are the months that are best to take off, and so although you're not guaranteed to be paid, that is not the right in Sweden necessarily, the guarantee is that you are able to take those days off unless you are doing something absolutely critical, and Mojang, the Swedish side of things, have decided the only thing that's absolutely critical is bug fixes, thank God, and so that's why 2 of those have come out for Java, and why after July 1st hit, we've seen them stop focusing on new copper changes, at least for now, and now 1.21.100 is going down the bug fix path with fixing vibrant visuals weather with these new changes to do with visuals. It's about making the game fixed up and making it less buggy than it was before, which is absolutely critical, at least according to Mojang, and so presumably, based on that 4-week rule, we'll see that 4 weeks after they left on the Java side of things, they'll likely come back, and so towards the end of this month, maybe not even next week, but the week after that, is when you should expect to see more copper-related changes, which is bizarre, but also kind of interesting, right? And in case you're not from Europe and you find that to be wild, I think a lot of people are surprised at the idea of how much paid holiday there is here. It does have to be said that this is a trade-off. It's not like magically appearing money from the government or from your employer. Instead, if we look at Mojang salaries in Sweden, based on Glassdoor estimates, it's around 630,000 a year in Swedish crowns, which is 65,000 US dollars, whereas if you were to be employed in the Redmond office, you'd be paid about 20 to 100% more, but obviously that employment would be under US law, which is much less restrictive in terms of holiday pay and all of the other things that make it possible to pay people more, but at the expense of certain employment rights. There's a really deep debate here, I think, that people aren't willing to have because it's easy just to say one way is better, the other way is worse, but I think that a lot of people in, say, the Swedish office might be willing to take the doubling in their pay in order to not have that holiday, whereas I think a lot of people, obviously that's illegal, but they would do it if there was a choice, but a lot of people in the reverse situation would not, because I think there's something about money where earning more is nice, but not required, but earning less is a disaster, and so even though a lot of people would be happier earning 20 to 50% less, but then in exchange having way more paid off time to actually spend it, I think a lot of people find that to be a struggle emotionally, and you know what? Guess what? We did a whole deep dive into the world of paid time off, because I guess we're in the Minecraft equivalent of the off-season, and isn't that a lot of fun? But what is also fun is the fact that in part of the essential bug fixes and things being changed like that, Minecraft have changed the former marketplace button on the pause menu to now say browse add-ons, and I've got to say I agree with not Minecraft here, I don't know why they have that name, but I agree with them saying the exclamation point looks very ominous. It is just not a good look for a game for it to say browse add-ons with a big exclamation mark. It's like they're absolutely begging you, like, yeah, there is one option we'd really rather you do than the rest, and again, it makes me feel bad about saying I play Bedrock when it's like, yeah, I play the version of Minecraft that made sure you could buy things when you paused the game before making sure the pause button actually paused, and it just makes me feel a little bit strange. And yeah, Swim says, isn't that weird that it says browse add-ons, because not everything on there is an add-on? Well, actually, let me show you how that's not quite true. Okay, this is the marketplace button from the homepage. I can press on it and it's going to show me the regular marketplace where it's mostly add-ons, but there's the occasional skin pack, or I assume this is a map. Yeah, it's a world that will sell me katanas. But if we go into our world, let's go into the igloo world, shall we? Because that's where I took that original screenshot. Right now, I've been trying to survive above Y200 only in an igloo. It's a lot of fun. I've made some decent progress. I even got a goat horn. But let me show you what happens when I pause and it says browse add-ons. Instead of taking me to the wider marketplace, it takes me exclusively to the add-on section of it. So all you can see here is add-ons, which is kind of fun, right? You can see all of the add-ons you'd like to choose, including presumably it's somewhere in there, everyone's favorite one that starts with a T. But yeah, what's really fun about this is that you can see this is the new marketplace button. I guess so many people are buying marketplace content and so few people are buying other things. This is something I can like personally confirm, that they're just kind of figuring like, why are we even bothering to ask people to buy that stuff? And so the marketplace button is becoming a browse add-ons button. Super, super interesting. Do you know what else is interesting in my opinion? The amount of excitement people have about rubies. I'll be honest, that's why I put it in the thumbnail of the video that I made made on Thursday. But it's crazy just how many people are excited for them. But Toby Venom makes the good point that rubies coming would be crazy, but hopefully they'd have another use and not just be amethyst. This is a really good point that someone needs to raise at some point, which is that yes, ultimately having new things in the game is great, but unless they have a good purpose, it's not actually exciting. People beg for Mojang to add the Mood Bloom, but if it was just a yellow cow that had flowers, that wouldn't be exciting. It's down, the hard part of an idea is not just having it, it's trying to make it work with all of the other systems, because if you don't do that, you create amethyst. I mean, even if you ask me, how do you make amethyst more valuable? Because I have it in my world, I have access to big, giant geodes, but I just don't bother mining them. So what would I do to make it useful? Well, you could make it so you have to enchant using amethyst, but then you're just stealing a function away from, I would say, lapis lazuli. If you make it so that it just does something that already exists, you're stealing functions from existing items, and so the real challenge with amethyst and the real challenge with rubies or any other idea is actually making it feel worthwhile to the end user. Speaking of being worthwhile to the end user, Laura Wolf XD3830 says, but wait, what about the red dragon? And a lot of people agree that yeah, there was meant to be an overworld dragon that was never added, and this is a really fun idea from the community, and I used to be a big believer in it for a long time. However, in 2013, Dinnerbone actually went out and said it was never promised, we have no plans to add a red dragon at this time, with the only thing we've heard from anyone at Mojang since is this joke from King B Dog saying the red dragon already exists, you've just got to hit the ender dragon and it appears for a split second. So they've already added the red dragon, yes I know that is a joke, and also they said they're not planning to add a red dragon anyway, so I would say that the odds of seeing it are very, very low, certainly so much lower than rubies and so much lower than the beautiful Mood Bloom, but especially all of the other mob and biome vote losers. By the way, Hacker1MC makes the very good point that if we're really thinking about an old promise from the modern era of Minecraft, we should think about the fletching table, because it's been 2,277 days since it released, not even announced, released. For reference, the smithing table had to only wait 427 days between the 1.14 release and its release with 1.16 and Netherite, and I wanted to go back and actually check the wording. They announced when the fletching table came out that they've decided not to give functionality to it or the smithing table, as they want to make sure that they're useful for overall gameplay, and they have a great idea for them in the next major themed update. This makes me think at this point that the fletching table was going to have something to do with Netherite, maybe Netherite arrows or something, that they later decided to scrap, and so I wonder if that idea is ever going to make it back in, or if the winter drop or if the future drop will instead focus on arrows and making them great too. I mean, there's lots of other fun ideas like the quiver that they could bring back, but yeah, with that said, I think I have one last question I want to go into today. It's from, or one last comment, it's from Sonic JHIQ, who says, it's crazy, I remember watching you when you were 20, I remember thinking you were one of the youngest YouTubers I was subscribed to back in 2015, and this person can confirm they've been around for at least 8 years, so I've got the receipt here to prove that that's true. So this is kind of crazy to think about, that yeah, back in 2015, I remember thinking like, oh yeah, I'm not, there's a lot of YouTubers who are much older than me by like a decade or two, but I felt kind of old compared to the sea of like 16, 17, 18-year-olds that were around at the time, and now what's funny is like, if I'm to look at the other Minecraft YouTubers in the space, and I see the ones that are like 20, 21, I'm like, whoa, that's crazy, you don't know anything, despite the fact that at 20 I felt like I knew everything. This is the most valuable thing you can ever learn about the world. It's that you don't see aging by yourself. You don't get older every single year. Instead, it's the rest of the world that gets younger. 20-year-olds are getting younger every single year. 16-year-old, I remember feeling this when I was like in year 4, seeing the year 1s come into school. I was like, man, these people are never going to be old. But now those people that I looked at and thought were literally the size of small monkeys, those people are now 27-year-olds, and I probably would barely notice a difference between myself and them. And isn't that the crazy thing about the universe? Okay, maybe it just is. But yeah, I also thought, I used to remember seeing people who were born in like 1988 and be like, whoa, you're so old, no wonder you've done so much more than me. And yeah, as you get older, I think it just begins to sink in, like the tiniest bit, that like, oh, yeah, that age difference is getting smaller and smaller between me and the people above me. I start to, hear that people in like the 1960s are now 65, and it's like, oh, that's spooky. Eventually, like old age will come for us all. But more seriously, I think that I have learned a lot of things in my 20s, and I finally come to accept that I can look forward to at least the first half of my 30s. I'll have another age crisis when I'm 35, but in the meantime, I look forward to you coming and checking me out here on the internet. Yeah, check me out while I'm still young Wait, I guess it'd be less weird to check me out when I'm old. But anyway, I thank you for checking out this video, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. I've got something really fun planned with diving into all of the things, because, you know, we're trying to work out what Mojang are going to add next, but I think one of the most critical things we've been spotting this last year is they'll add the, you know, the changes they're looking to make for mod creators first, and so I'm looking forward to seeing what they've added recently, and if that's a sign as to what is coming next. But with that said, thank you for watching. I hope you're enjoying the off-season content, and I'll see you tomorrow for one of my biggest videos in a very long time. Goodbye.